Today we're talking about the, in my opinion, best new or changed items for hunters in Season 4. There were a lot of items that were changed, we have a lot of new items, and this time we're looking at the hunters and which items are best for them now that haven't been there before. This was voted for on Twitter. You guys wanted to see hunters first, so we're doing that. Also, I was planning to do an overarching conquest guide for Season 4 today. Unfortunately, the servers have been really bad for me all day. I've had many issues with the client, so I can't really record what I want to record and show you. So that will hopefully come tomorrow if the servers are a little more stable. With that, let us jump into the hunters. So for hunters, you have two starter items that were in the game before already, but both have been changed. Bluestone Pendant now gives MP5, mana per 5 seconds. It costs 800 gold, has 15 physical power, 50 mana, 5 MP5 and 30 damage over 2 seconds. The passive stays the same, it can stack up to 2 times, and that overall makes the item a little better. If you remember earlier in the previous seasons, we had Bluestone Pendant with a very different niche for hunters. It used to be a very potent item for hunters due to the mana that it offered for ability heavy hunters, allowing them to clear with their abilities very fast and very frequently, basically spamming those abilities. And with the MP5 on this item, this may come back a little bit. This allows hunters to use this item a lot more effectively for aggression in lane. It's better for ability-based hunters that use a lot of mana, obviously. Especially Ullr would be one of those cards where I think this could find a use instead of Transcendence now, but many others can find a way to implement that in their builds. It's especially great for those hunters who nearly clear a wave with their abilities, like for example Medusa, but not fully. It's still gonna be rough for a Bluestone Hunter in lane because you can get bullied out very easily, and you will have to be prepared for that. So you're either looking for really hard aggression, maybe you have your support in lane longer, you have a healing support, or you're a healing hunter yourself like Charon or Neith, or you just play the lane really aggressively. But it can definitely work out better than before with the added MP5. The other starter is also changed. Death Toll costs 800 gold, has 10 physical power, 100 health, and it gives 8 health and 3 mana per basic hit on a minion or player. So that's quite a significant amount of, well, constant healing you're getting basically. You sacrifice a little bit of power, but overall this is a lot more survivability focused, and this will really push Death Toll ahead of, for example, boot starts or stuff like that. The sustain of this item is pretty damn strong now, regardless of if you are looking to build into sustain later in your build or not. 8 health per minion is just a huge chunk, I would say, and I hardly see any gods who don't find value in that in the hunter role. So I do believe that both are possible, but I think we'll see a lot more of Death Toll overall, unless you're looking for heavy aggression with Bluestone Pendant. The next item is probably the biggest deal for hunters in regards to new items. This item is Silver Branch Bow. Silver Branch Bow costs 1700 gold, has 10 flat penetration, 30% attack speed, and the passive is every successful basic attack increases your physical power by 10 and reduces your target's magical power from items by 15 for 3 seconds, max 3 stacks. So this sounds very familiar because it's basically a Kaival only against magical targets. The point here is that not only does this completely shut down any magical ADCs except for maybe Freya, so it is very potent as such already, but you can build it in combination with a Kaival. You're not restricted to building one of them, and if you combine both, you have 2 very cheap items that provide you with penetration, attack speed and power, so all the stats a hunter wants except for maybe lifesteal. And that is very strong. It will allow you to bully really hard in lane, and it will allow you to basically counter everyone in the game a little bit. So therefore you will often see both being built combined, and you can consider doing that yourself. There are other options. There is also Wind Demon, which we'll get into in a second, and people are trying to rush that at the moment as well. But I think that Silver Branch Bow will be very established in many builds. The next item is Wind Demon. Wind Demon was changed a little bit, but this change is actually quite impactful. Wind Demon now costs 2600 gold. It has 30 physical power. It has 10% attack speed, and it is 20% critical strike chance. On top of that, your passive stays the same. Your critical hits increase your attack speed and movement speed by 20% for 5 seconds. So you can still get 30% attack speed out of this item, and you can get the movement increase, and you have that base attack speed on the item now. Attack speed and crit is a very strong combination on an item, especially when it's relatively cheap. We used to have that way back, I think in Season 1, and it was very potent, which is why it was removed. Now we're seeing the return of this, somewhat to a lesser extent, but still, this is gonna make Wind Demon pretty much a must-have pickup. And as Poison Stars change as well, we will probably see a lot more crit hunters compared to before. With that, let's look at the Poison Star. Poison Star costs 2,200 gold, gives 30 physical power, 15% attack speed, 15% critical strike chance, and critical hits on enemies. Afflict them with a poison for 2 seconds. The poison will slow them by 20% and reduces their damage output by 20%. So the point here is that Poison Star is extremely cheap and basically has similar stats to Wind Demon with a little less RNG and a little more sustained damage via attack speed and a different passive. Both are very, very strong. Both really fulfill the niche of the crit attack speed item now, and therefore will probably be found in almost any build and pretty much every crit build. Not necessarily both of them at the same time, but at least one of them. Hasten Fatalis was also changed. Hasten Fatalis gets a change that is relatively minor. The item now costs 2,150 gold. It has 10 flat penetration and 20% attack speed instead of 30. The passive stays the same. When you hit an enemy with a basic attack, your attacking movement speed debuff is removed from you for 1 second. The interesting thing here is, though this is a small change in terms of the numbers, the change will be very impactful. I've talked about this already, how potent this can be. I will just briefly glance over this again. Hasten Fatalis now allows for somewhat of a decent early implementation into a build. It's no archival, it will never be, but the stats are good enough to consider it a reasonable choice in many situations. It's also reasonable for mages, by the way, for hunter mages, so to speak, AA mages, which I didn't really mention in the last video. But obviously, normal hunters can make use of it as well. With Hasten Fatalis, I don't think it's gonna be necessary. I don't think it's gonna be core for many hunters, but I think it is a lot better now, and I would consider it a really good item overall now. With that, we're coming to the rituals. First ritual being Flickering Ritual, aka Combat Blink, same as with the mages. This costs 750 gold, and when activated, it teleports to a ground location up to 55 units away instantly. It can be used during combat. Really good escape tool for hunters in late game. Very, very strong. Not sure if it's actually going to stay in the game, but definitely worth picking up if you're full build. The other one is once again Rallying Ritual, basically a teleport to guards after 4 seconds without getting CC'd. This is probably a lot less popular than Flickering Ritual overall, but I still think there's somewhat of a use for it, especially if you have some character that is very far up the map and can tank a tower for you, and you just teleport there and you basically have an easy way to split push or something like that. So at least for that, I would give it the choice to be picked up on hunters, so reason for it to be picked up. So also something worth keeping in mind. The last item I will mention is a bit of a question mark, and that is Soul Eater. Now, Soul Eater has extremely potent stats for lifesteal. It costs 2,200 gold now, it has 20% lifesteal, it has 200 mana, it has 20% crowd control reduction, and it has a new passive. Hitting an enemy guard with a basic attack heals you for 2% of your max HP per hit. So, this item is awkward. The reason for it being awkward is that it doesn't really have anything that amplifies the function of an ADC as a damage dealer. It has no attack speed, it has no power, it has no penetration. At the same time, it has a high value of base lifesteal, which I actually thought was going to be removed from the item, and hunters work very well with base lifesteal, so you're going to be able to heal a lot in lane or on minions, on camps, everything like that if you have 20% lifesteal. But on top of that, you also have the healing from enemies, from guards, if you hit guards. So this is a very interesting combination. Now, this is not the same as, for example, Erlang Shen, who's got double procs on it, but hunters generally have a lot more benefit from building into attack speed and can get use out of it that way. And with various crit items now giving attack speed, you may not be as dependent on building more of it in order to get the most use out of Soul Eater. Like I said, Soul Eater is not going to do much for your damage, but it may very well do a lot for your boxing. And if you're boxing an enemy while you have Poison Star, Wind Demon on you, and then you're healing up from hitting them, you will probably win most boxing matches despite of the enemy having more damage. At the same time, it means that securing structures and stuff like that is going to be harder. So Soul Eater remains a question mark as to how to effectively implement it into builds, but I could see it being successful in the right build. That's it for the Hunter items. Thank you very much for watching. I was originally planning to make the Conquest Guide today, as I said. I will still make all the other role guides within the next days, and I will make the Conquest Guide. I'm probably gonna do one role guide per day because they actually take up more time than expected once again. Realized that yesterday, and I'm really fine with doing one per day and then just spreading them out over the week because it's otherwise just gonna be too much work. Hope to see you all for the next one tomorrow. Duke Sloth, out.